Hey guys, if you're shopping for knives and gear, make sure you check out the description of the video you're watching right now for links to some great online retailers. There's also individual links for knives that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Middle Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to share with you guys. This time an automatic knife, an OTF actually. This is the new Guardian Tactical GTX-025 or GTX-025 as I like to call it. It's a little bit easier to say. Very interesting. This is a smaller knife being offered by Guardian Tactical. As many of you know, I purchased for myself the Recon 35, which is their medium size, and then they also have a 40, which is a larger size. This is definitely the smaller one, and more so, and for a lot of people are pointing out, it's right in between like the UTX-75 or UTX-85 from Microtech, which is a size range that a lot of people prefer in an EDC style OTF. This knife was sent to me by Blade HQ. Thank you so much, Blade HQ, for reaching out and offering to send this to me. Full disclosure, that's where it came from. That will in no way affect my ability to give this an honest review. It's very important to me, and I can't help but give my honest thoughts on stuff like this. But I appreciate it anyway. I do have links for Blade HQ down below so that you guys can shop there if you want to. And I also, of course, have links for this guy and all of the different variants. It does come in a couple of different colors. Like in this case, we've got this battle-worn sort of black wash finish. We do have a stonewash option, two-tone, some other stuff. So check those out if you'd like to. Thanks so much to my generous patrons for supporting me right now. If you'd like to get your hands on some cool stickers and some other benefits, there's of course a link down in the description. You're supporting me in the world to me, and please follow me on Instagram. Let's go ahead and get a measurement of this guy. Overall length of the Guardian Tactical GTX-025 coming in at just under, it's like 6.7 inches overall. Blade length is coming in definitely under 3 inches, and cutting edge is coming in at about 2.6 inches overall. For a lot of people, you know, you're going to say, that's too small for an OTF. A lot of people want to carry an automatic knife, but are either limited by, you know, legality stuff in their area, or they just don't like larger knives. There are plenty of reasons to carry this knife, even if you are into, you know, medium-sized or larger knives, and we'll get into that here in a sec. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1. The Rat 1 is coming in much larger at 8.6 inches overall. How about up against the Spyderco PM2? Let's go ahead and move this guy down just a bit. Spyderco PM2 is coming in at 8.3 inches overall. How about up against the Benchmade Reptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue? Ritter Hogue is coming in at 8 inches overall. And last but not least, the smallest knife that I usually carry, the Spyderco Para 3. The Para 3 is coming in much closer at 7.25 inches overall. Cutting edge will actually go slightly, is it about the same? It has, actually no, the Para 3 still has slightly more cutting edge, but is substantially longer than the GTX-025. Let's go ahead and talk about the action here, because that is the main feature of this knife, in my opinion. This is an OTF, so you slide the thing forward and it deploys, and you pull it back and it goes back in. This knife, alongside other Guardian Tactical designs, has a steel plate underneath the switch, and then there are ceramic bearings underneath that, and that makes for an incredibly smooth and fidgety action. It's unbelievably easy to fire this switch. On many other OTFs, you have, you know, a switch and a certain amount of friction that make it not difficult necessarily, just less comfortable than this. The switch complements the human thumb when you are pushing it forward. It's nice to have that little rise, that traction point, and then when you are pulling it back, this extra area right here, or the way that this is shaped, complements your finger really, really well, and it's unbelievably easy to actuate. Not so easy that you might accidentally deploy it in your pocket, just easy enough to make sure that you don't have to, you know, get it at exactly the right angle. We've all, you know, those of us who have Microtech knives and other OTFs have handed some of those to other people and found that, you know, those people had trouble deploying it because they weren't sure about what angle to push with their finger, and you know, there was a little bit of excess friction there. Obviously, once you get used to those knives, it's not a problem at all. Is this easier, though? Definitely. This is the easiest to deploy style of OTF that I've ever handled. It translated perfectly from what I remember feeling in the Recon 35. It's just wonderful. Despite it being small, it's still plenty easy to just engage. It doesn't even really matter. I can lay my thumb down on this, and the meat of my thumb catches that area, and it's great. A lot of people ask about blade play in these OTFs. There are very few OTF knives out there that have no blade play. The Deadlock OTF has no blade play. I think there might be one or two other designs. Every time I do a video like this, people are like, my Benchmade Infidel doesn't have any blade play. I don't believe you. I'm sorry. It's very common in ultra high-end production and even custom OTFs to have a slight amount of blade play. So there's a certain level that is acceptable to me, and this is right on that mark. It is incredibly similar to all Microtech knives that I've ever handled. There's a little tiny bit. You can hear it shake just a little bit. In my experience, every single Benchmade Infidel that I've ever felt has way more blade play. I have a local dealer. I've handled probably 8 or 9 of them. New ones, old ones, they're all about the same. My Microtechs have substantially less blade play, and these Guardian Tactical knives, now having handled, this is the second one, they're just as minimal. So it's perfectly acceptable. I have no problem with that whatsoever. I believe they also have a little bit of a unique chassis, the way that it is held in place, and then it's much more frictionless on the way out. That's interesting. I don't know as much about that, but I figured you guys might want to know. Let's go ahead and talk about carry profile. So thickness of this guy up against the Para 3, it is actually a little bit thinner than the Para 3, which is nice. OTFs tend to be a tad thick. This is not the case here. And how about length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3, because they're a little bit awkward dimensionally. It is nowhere near as tall, and it is nowhere near as long as either of them. Honestly, you should be pretty much okay with this knife. And I mean, obviously, if it's legal in your area, check your local laws. But yeah, this is going to be comfortable to carry in athletic shorts, skinny jeans, leather pants, regular fit, relaxed fit jeans, whatever. You're going to be just fine. The blade stock thickness on this guy, get my calipers here real quick. Blade stock thickness is coming in at 127 thousandths. It's pretty standard. You're looking at Benchmade Griptilian territory. Not a tall blade, not a lot of room to drop towards the edge. We'll talk about that later. Weight on this guy, we're looking at aluminum, 6061 T6 aluminum, steel for the chassis, and then L-Max for the blade. Not a long blade, not a thick blade. So your weight comes in at a totally reasonable 2.3 ounces. That's really shouldn't be enough to bother anybody, and it's right on that ounce and inch marker, actually a little bit under it, so that's going to make a lot of people happy. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check, get out my tools here. You can check out my tools and my flashlight down in the description. I think I'll be linking them both at the bottom. No, we're looking at T6 here, which is more often the case. With OTFs, it seems to be either proprietary or it seems to be T6. So at least this isn't proprietary. You can get into this knife. Yeah, these are all going to be T6. There's only 4 of them though. And then we do have a T8 pocket clip screw though, so that's nice, which is most of the time that's the only screw you're going to have to mess with. I wouldn't recommend taking apart an OTF, but some people do. Check with their warranty. If you're going to do that, if you've got an issue with your knife and you want to take it apart or you just want to clean it, whatever, check with Guardian Tactical. They have the final say in that. If you purchase their knives, and you are considering taking it apart, check with them first. Let's go ahead. I think we're past everything we need to do there. So let's go ahead and talk about the anatomy of this knife. The shape of this, is very similar to other OTFs. There's just the uniqueness in this one is the plates, the bearings, the switch, and some of the texturing and design choices here. But yeah, the shape of it is much the same as other OTFs. So if you like, the shape of the UTX-025, 85, the Lightning OTF, the Scarab from Microtech, or the Ultratech, it's kind of right around there. It's not overly thick, but it's big enough that it doesn't feel skinny. It feels nice in the hand. This little area right here that's textured offers just enough traction where if you're going to hold it like this, it feels good. But in the standard position, you're really only interacting it with your index finger. I don't know. I mean, in terms of a utilitarian benefit, there's not much there, but it does look nice and it's something different. The thing that I like is ergonomically, this thing just feels really good. It's not a lot of object, right? But you have this area right here, some texturing, some more texturing here, and some texturing here. When I lay my fingers down naturally, I realized, yeah, it's 100% intended to give you a full purchase despite being really small. It's a benefit of a large rectangular body with not a lot of crazy lines, is it's not really forcing your hands into a specific area, but you have just enough room. In my case, I wear an XL glove, just enough room to get a full purchase, and it is comfortable. Not that I would be in a situation where I'd really need a full 4-finger purchase so that I could really bear down on this. I'm sure it's made well. I'm sure it can stand up to some abuse. But it's just nice to be able to have that option and, for it to be comfortable, even when I am sort of crammed into a small handle. So I really like that. Everything is knocked down. There are no sharp edges. The pocket clip is comfortable. Everything's fine. There's a glass breaker on the back of this, which is really just the end of it comes to a point, and they've just nested a little steel bearing in there. And that's a nice way to do a glass breaker. I don't like glass breakers because I don't find myself breaking glass ever, like literally never. But I guess if you're in a situation where you need to do that, that's a nice way to do it without it being obtrusive or pointy as you're jamming this back into your pocket. Oftentimes you brace the knife up against your palm. And if it's a really pointy glass breaker that we've seen on some designs from the past, then that kind of sucks. But they've found a nice way around that without making it, in my opinion, aesthetically ugly. The blade on this guy is LMAX, which is definitely not a steel that we see enough of in today's knife world. What is LMAX? Check out Knife Steel Nerds for a much better breakdown on that steel than what I'm about to give you. LMAX is considered by most to be a super steel. It is powder formed. It is a steel that will hold an edge really, really well. It's not a nightmare to sharpen. It's definitely going to be tough, and it's definitely going to be stainless. It shares a lot of the same qualities with other steels that we see. This, to me, it kind of falls somewhere in between S35VN and CTS XHP. Obviously, it depends on the geometry and the heat treat, how capable the blade is, right? But I'm not a professional. I'm not a metallurgist, so go check out Knife Steel Nerds for that information. They do a way better job, and they are actually professionals. And I say they, I think it's actually one person, but anyways, this is the black wash finish, and it's heavy. It definitely gives the impression that the knife has been used. It translates to the pocket clip. Some people are really going to like that, especially if you're going to take this out and use it, right? DLC finishes, oftentimes sort of fade away over time, and this is custom faded to steal the line from the Transformers movie. Some people really like that. This wouldn't be my first choice. I kind of like how they did it. It's okay, but I would have just chosen tumbled. I like their sort of dark concrete tumbled, but they've got a few different options out there so you can kind of pick what you want. As far as I know, it only comes in black aluminum. Maybe they'll do some different colors down the road. I think they did with the GTX, or I'm sorry, the Recon 35, I think. But, I don't know. You can pick the finish you want from the ones that are available. We have a flat that carries out about 85% the length of the blade, carrying some pretty meaningful thickness out there. It is not unbelievably thin down behind the edge. I believe this is, this feels hollow ground. It does get thin enough to do your regular EDC test. This is the style of knife that if I wanted to carry an OTF, like if I was looking for a light OTF or just general EDC test, this would be a great choice. It's going to do what you need it to do. It's not a blade design that's going to excel particularly at any one thing. It's a nice, simple drop point blade. I think they did a nice job with it. I don't have an issue there. There's really just not much to say. It's well done. These holes I heard described as weight reduction holes. These are tactical speed holes and a little bit of a gunk trap. I don't necessarily like them on an OTF because if you're cutting something and crap gets lodged in there and then you pull it back in, then now all that stuff is on the inside. It adds some aesthetic flair to a blade that would look pretty much exactly the same as any other drop point blade that's on an OTF. So they added, some uniqueness to it. It looks overly tactical, right? Some people really, really like that. Long-term use, I really don't want them there. So judge from that what you will. I consider that a bit of a flaw. The edges surrounding them, a little bit sharp. They're sharp enough that they're definitely going to catch stuff. But up here, this area up here is nicely knocked down, and the edge is done well, right? Everything else looking just fine here. So take that for what it's worth. The pocket clip is a great design. You can see we've got the serial number here. This is number 67. The pocket clip has kind of a combination bill slash swoop, but it does a good job getting over the pants pocket, and the knife carries deep enough for me, so that's fine. Guardian Tactical's font looks like a Halloween font. It's kind of corny, but okay, you know, whatever. It's just a font. It's not really hurting anything. It just has always looked goofy to me. There's not a lot of excess on the blade. I mean, it just says LMAX, and then up here on the frame it says GTX-025, so that's fine. All the way around, you know, aside from a couple little quirks, you know, things I can complain about, really the biggest thing for me are those holes there. I really don't like, and I know a lot of people are like, you have that, you know, Combat Trudon Hellhound that's got holes in it, and it'd be the same thing, and you always talk about how much you love that. You know, yes, for some people it is going to be a thing that is aesthetically pleasing, and they just love it for what it is, right? But if I really plan to go out and use that Combat Trudon with the Hellhound blade and all the holes in it, and I was going to get it dirty, that would definitely cause a problem over time. You know, it's just stuff coming in and out all the time, depending on what you're cutting. You know, it's just, I don't really, oh, my word choice there was so bad. But depending on what it is that you're cutting, that blade coming in and out of the frame all the time, you know, yeah, it's definitely, you know, it's going to be something it's going to cause a problem over time. And it's the same thing with this. But does that mean you shouldn't buy it? Does that mean it's not worth the money? No. That's in an extreme case of use over a long period of time. And fortunately, you can get into this knife if you choose to, and it is definitely made well. The nice thing here is that this knife is made in the United States, and it is priced very competitively. I feel like these knives, you know, their direct competitors are Microtech, and I love Microtech knives. There are a lot of Microtech knives that I'd rather own than this, but it's mostly for aesthetic reasons. This knife is built just as well, and there is definitely a benefit in that switch. Maybe it's just in fidget factor, you know, maybe it is the convenience makes it a little bit better in some situations, I don't know, but that's something that I very much appreciate. You can pick these up for about $240. I have no problem with that price for a US-made automatic. But you can get Chinese automatics for so much less. I've handled a ton of those. I've handled a ton of Chinese-made OTFs. They're cool. I'd rather spend more money and get something like this. Honestly, that's my honest thought on that. I don't think that the automatic knife world, in terms of the Chinese-made ones, are quite where the US automatic knife world is right now. Versus, you know, like talking about the manual folding knife world, I think, you know, Chinese manufactured knives really give US manufactured folders a run for their money. In a lot of cases, they're justifiable in terms of quality, right? OTF game, not so much. Handled a ton from both sides. In my opinion, it's better to spend more money and get a US OTF in pretty much every circumstance. This knife is going to be going in my most recommended knives playlist. I very much like this, but it is specifically going to be for people who are looking for a smaller automatic knife and want to make sure that it has the quality and it's easy to use, right? If you're looking for a bigger automatic knife, then yeah, then you may not like this because it's not a big knife. But anyways, yeah, very much recommend this knife. Thanks again to Blade HQ for sending this guy along. Please follow me on Instagram. Guys, that's going to be pretty much it for today's video. If you enjoyed this video, if you were mildly entertained by it, or if you're just feeling generous, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.